He laughed at his wife when she begged him to stay. He told her she would never become anything in life. Then he walked away and married a governor's daughter, believing that money and power had finally chosen his side. But what he did not know was that the woman he abandoned was the silent owner of the company that would decide his future. And when the truth finally came out, regret came knocking far too late. Dear viewers, today's story is one of pride, betrayal, hidden power, and a lesson that no one should ever forget. Stay with us until the end, because what happened to this man changed his life forever. The morning sun had already climbed high above the city, but inside Kehinde's small apartment, darkness seemed to hang in every corner. Kehinde sat quietly at the edge of her bed, staring at a brown envelope in her hands. Her fingers trembled. She had already opened it, already read every line, but her heart still refused to accept what her eyes had seen. It was a divorce notice. Her husband, Olumide, had filed to end their marriage. For several minutes, she remained frozen, her breathing shallow, her mind full of questions that had no answers. The kettle in the kitchen whistled loudly, but she did not move. Outside, a bus horn sounded from the street below. Somewhere nearby, children laughed on their way home from school. But inside that room, time had stopped. Kehinde lowered the paper to her lap and closed her eyes. Just 2 years earlier, she had believed she had found love. Not perfect love, not rich love, but real love. The kind of love that could survive hard times and build a future from nothing. Now she was sitting alone, holding proof that everything she believed had been a lie. Her phone buzzed on the mattress beside her. It was her friend, Folake. Kehinde stared at the screen for a second before answering. "Hello, Kehinde. Have you seen what he posted?" Kehinde frowned weakly. "What are you talking about?" There was a pause on the line. "You really haven't seen it?" "No." Folake inhaled slowly. "Olumide posted engagement pictures this morning." Kehinde's throat tightened. "Engagement?" "Yes, with Chioma." The name hit her like cold water. Chioma, the governor's daughter. The woman everyone in Olumide's office had been whispering about. Kehinde's lips parted, but no words came out. "Kehinde," Folake asked softly, "are you there?" "Yes," she whispered. "I'm here. I'm coming over. There's no need." "There is." The call ended and silence returned. But it was a cruel silence now, one filled with humiliation. Kehinde slowly opened her browser, searched Olumide's name, and there it was. A polished engagement photo. Olumide in a cream-colored suit, smiling proudly. Beside him stood Chioma, elegant and glowing, wrapped in wealth, influence, and everything society admired. The caption read, "A new beginning with the woman of my dreams." Kehinde looked at the words until her eyes blurred. The woman of my dreams. Not long ago, he had said those same words to her. She gave a bitter smile and wiped the tears from her cheeks. Somewhere deep inside her pain, something hard was beginning to form. Not hatred, not revenge, something quieter. The need for truth. Before heartbreak entered her life, Kehinde had been known as a calm and thoughtful woman. She was not loud, not flashy, and not interested in attention. She ran a small fabric and home decor shop on the mainland. People liked her because she was respectful, honest, and easy to trust. What most people did not know was that Kehinde came from a very powerful family. Her late grandfather had built one of the largest logistics and industrial groups in the region. After his death, Much of the family's business empire had been divided through trusts and holding structures. Kehinde, being private and cautious, never walked around announcing her background. In fact, very few people even knew her full family name. She preferred a simple life. Her mother had once told her, "The less people know about your wealth, the more you will know about their hearts." At the time, Kehinde had smiled at those words. Years later, she would understand exactly what they meant. She met Olumide at a friend's birthday dinner. He was charming, attentive, and confident in the careful way some men become when they learn how to make people like them quickly. He spoke kindly to waiters. He laughed at the right moments. He remembered details. He made Kehinde feel seen. After the dinner, he asked for her number. The conversation started slowly. Then they became daily. Olumide said he admired her calmness. He said most women he met were too focused on appearance and luxury. He said Kehinde was different. And because she had lived such a guarded life, his words touched her deeply. When he came to pick her up for their early dates, he drove an old but clean car. He spoke about ambition and discipline. He said he wanted to build a stable home with a woman who believed in partnership. Kehinde listened and thought maybe this man has depth. What she did not notice at first were the small, carefully hidden cracks beneath his charm. The first time Olumide asked her for money, he was embarrassed. Or at least, he acted embarrassed. He explained that his mother was unwell and he needed help paying for medication. He promised to return the money in a week. Kehinde gave it to him. He thanked her over and over again. He sent long messages about how much her kindness meant to him. He never paid it back. The second time, it was about a business opportunity. The third time, it was a rent emergency for a younger cousin. The fourth time, it was transport issues connected to work. Each story sounded believable. Each request came wrapped in just enough shame to make refusal feel cruel. And every time she helped him, Olumide became even more loving. If she ever hesitated, his mood would shift. He would become distant. He would take longer to respond. He would say things like, "Sometimes I feel like you don't believe in me." Kehinde told herself relationships required patience. She told herself no one was perfect. She told herself love was being tested. What she did not know was that Olumide had already begun measuring her by one thing only: what he could get from her. One Sunday afternoon, Kehinde visited her mother, Mrs. Okonkwo, at the family residence on the outskirts of the city. The house was quiet and elegant, hidden behind trees and guarded gates. But Kehinde did not arrive there as the daughter of wealth. She arrived as a worried wife, trying to protect the image of her marriage. Her mother noticed her sadness immediately. "What is wrong?" she asked. "Nothing. That face never says nothing." Kehinde hesitated. Then she spoke. She told her mother about the money requests, about the mood swings, about the way Olumide seemed affectionate only after financial help, about how she had started to feel more like an investor than a wife. Mrs. Okonkwo listened without interruption. When Kehinde finished, her mother leaned back slowly and folded her hands. "Does he know who you truly are?" Kehinde shook her head. "No." "Does he know about your shares in Okonkwo Infrastructure Group?" "No." "Does he know this family could buy the building where he works without blinking?" "No." Her mother nodded. "Good." Kehinde looked surprised. "Good?" "Yes. Very good. Why would you say that? Because now you still have a chance to see his real heart before it is too late. Kehinde frowned. Maybe I'm overthinking. Maybe he's just under pressure. Maybe, her mother said calmly. But pressure does not create character. It reveals it. Those words lingered in the room. Kehinde looked away. I love him. I know. I don't want to believe I made a mistake. Her mother softened. Love does not become truth just because we feel it deeply. Kehinde's eyes grew wet. So what should I do? Mrs. Okonkwo was silent for a moment. Then she said, Stop helping him financially. Kehinde turned immediately. What? Tell him your shop is struggling. Tell him you are barely managing. Tell him there is no extra money. Then watch him. That sounds like a test. It is. I don't want to test my husband. Her mother's voice remained gentle. And yet he has been testing you for months. Kehinde had no reply. That evening, she drove home with her mother's words echoing inside her. She knew the advice was wise, but wisdom is often painful because it demands courage. For 3 days, she avoided the conversation. Then the call came. Olumide said he needed a large amount urgently. He claimed he had found a golden opportunity through someone connected to government contracts. If he missed it, he said, it would be the end of everything he had been working for. Kehinde swallowed hard. Olumide, I can't help this time. The line went quiet. What do you mean? My business is not doing well. Silence. I thought you said things were stable. They were. Not anymore. Another silence, colder than the first. So you don't have anything? No. Not even a comforting lie escaped her. Olumide exhaled sharply. Interesting. Kehinde's chest tightened. What does that mean? Nothing. It just tells me a lot. Olumide, please don't start this. I'm not starting anything. I'm just learning. The call ended. That night, he did not come home. At first, Olumide tried to hide the change. He still came around, still asked if she had cooked, still spoke to her in a near-normal voice. But the warmth had drained from him. When Kehinde asked how work was going, he gave one-word answers. When she reached for his hand, he pretended not to notice. A week later, he asked for money again. Again, she refused. This time, he laughed. Not warmly, not playfully, cruelly. So all this time, this is who you are. Kehinde looked at him in disbelief. What are you saying? A wife who watches her husband struggle and does nothing. Olumide, I told you my business is failing. He stared at her face for a long moment. Then he said, Maybe I married the wrong woman. The words cut more deeply because they came so casually. Kehinde stood still. You don't mean that. I do. No, you're angry. I'm realistic. Olumide, you know what your problem is, he interrupted. You have no vision, no connections, no usefulness. A man cannot build with emptiness. Kehinde felt something shatter inside her. Usefulness? Yes, usefulness. Marriage is not just emotion. If I'm with someone, there must be value. She stepped back as if slapped. Value? Yes, value. He repeated the word without shame. It was then Kehinde understood. She had not been loved. She had been assessed. A few days later, Olumide packed some clothes and left. He told neighbors it was work pressure. He told his friends he needed space. He told himself many things that made him feel less guilty. But in truth, he had already begun chasing a different future. A richer one, a louder one, a more profitable one. That future had a name: Chioma Obi. Chioma was beautiful, well-educated, and impossible to ignore. She was the daughter of a sitting governor and the niece of major investors tied to several companies across the country. She had recently joined the board of a development fund that often collaborated with private firms. Olumide met her through work during a corporate event. By then, he had already decided his marriage to Kehinde was finished. He had not yet filed for divorce, but in his heart, he had abandoned it. When he first introduced himself to Chioma, he wore his most polished smile. He knew how to perform humility. He knew how to sound ambitious without seeming desperate. He knew the language people in powerful circles wanted to hear. Chioma noticed him because he seemed intelligent and attentive. He offered her professional insights. He made her laugh once, then twice, then more. Olumide carefully kept certain truths hidden. He did not mention his wife. He did not mention his financial dependence. He did not mention his growing frustration that Kehinde had nothing to offer. Instead, he painted himself as a self-made man on the edge of breakthrough. Chioma admired discipline. Olumide knew that, so he performed it. Within weeks, he had found ways to be near her often. Coffee after meetings, late calls about proposals, casual check-ins. He made himself appear necessary. Meanwhile, he became openly cold to Kehinde. One evening, after staying away for nearly 4 nights, he returned only to collect more clothes. Kehinde watched silently as he moved around the room. "Are you leaving?" "For now." "For now?" "Yes. You already left long ago." He paused. Then, without looking at her, he said, "Let's not pretend this marriage has a future." Kehinde felt tears rise, but she refused to let them fall in front of him. "Did you ever love me?" Olumide zipped his bag. "I loved the possibility." "The possibility of what?" He finally looked at her. "Of becoming more." He walked out. And that was the moment Kehinde's grief became clarity. When the divorce documents arrived, Kehinde did not go to her old apartment. She drove straight to her family residence. Her mother met her at the entrance. One look was enough. "Come inside." In the sitting room, Kehinde handed over the divorce notice. Mrs. Okonkwo read it with a calm face, though anger burned in her eyes. "He moved quickly," she said. Kehinde gave a broken laugh. Apparently his future couldn't wait. "Sit down." Kehinde sat. For a long time, neither of them spoke. Then her mother said, "There is something you must stop doing today." "What?" "Protecting his image in your mind." Kehinde stared at the floor. "Part of you is still hoping this is confusion, or stress, or bad advice." Kehinde remained silent because it was true. Her mother leaned closer. "He chose greed." Kehinde's eyes filled again. "And now he is moving toward another woman because he believes she will open doors money can buy." Kehinde nodded faintly. "Then let him walk." "But it hurts." "Yes," her mother said gently. "Truth often hurts before it heals." That evening, Kehinde's uncle, Chief Okonkwo, also arrived. He was one of the senior figures managing the family's business holdings. He had always respected Kehinde's wish to live quietly. But when he learned what had happened, his face hardened. "So this man humiliated you," he said. "It's over," Kehinde replied softly. "No. What is over is your silence." Kehinde frowned. Her uncle stood and paced the room. "You have remained hidden long enough. Do you know what foolish men like him count on?" She shook her head. "They count on decent women staying quiet while they move from one opportunity to another." Kehinde breathed slowly. "What do you want me to do?" "For now, nothing reckless. But if he is deceiving another woman, that is no longer only your pain. It is a warning." Those words settled heavily inside her. A warning. Not revenge. A warning. 2 weeks later, social media exploded with news of Olumide's upcoming traditional introduction to Chioma's family. His rise seemed sudden, impressive, almost unbelievable. People at his office whispered that fortune had finally smiled on him. Some said he was smart. Some said he was lucky. Some said he knew how to position himself. Very few knew the truth. Kehinde saw the photos and felt her stomach twist. There he was, smiling confidently beside the woman he intended to marry. His caption spoke of destiny. His comments were full of congratulations, and beneath every photo, one lie remained hidden. He was still legally entangled with the wife he had discarded. At first, Kehinde wanted no involvement. She wanted to heal quietly, to disappear from the drama, to pretend that what Olumide did would eventually catch up with him on its own. But Folake would not let the matter rest. "You can't stay silent," she said one evening over tea. "Why not?" "Because he is about to destroy someone else using the same method. Chioma probably won't listen to me." "Then at least your conscience will be clean." Kehinde looked out the window. "I don't want to look bitter." "You won't," Folake replied. "You'll look truthful." That night, Kehinde thought about everything. About her marriage, about the warning signs, about the manipulation disguised as love, about how many people would still praise Olumide if no one ever exposed what he truly was. The next morning, she made a decision. She asked her uncle to arrange a quiet meeting with Chioma. Not through gossip, not through scandal, but respectfully, directly, woman to woman. Chioma agreed to the meeting out of curiosity more than concern. She had heard Kehinde's name once before in passing, but Olumide dismissed it as an old, irrelevant situation. Still, something in Chief Okonkwo's request made her take it seriously. They met at a private lounge inside an exclusive hotel. Chioma arrived first, dressed simply but elegantly. Kehinde entered a few minutes later, wearing a plain navy dress, no heavy jewelry, and the calm expression of someone who had cried enough to stop performing pain. For a moment, both women simply looked at each other. Then Chioma said, "Please sit." Kehinde sat down. "I'll be honest," Chioma began. "I wasn't sure whether to come." "I understand. You said this was important." "It is." The waiter brought water and left. Kehinde held her glass but did not drink. "I'm here because your name has become connected to a man I was married to." Chioma's face tightened slightly. "Olumide told me that marriage was already over." "It is over in his heart," Kehinde replied calmly. "But not in the way he presented it." Chioma stayed silent. Kehinde continued. "I'm not here to fight you. I'm not here to beg for him. I do not want him back." "Then why are you here?" "Because I wish someone had warned me." That answer changed the atmosphere. Chioma leaned back slowly. Kehinde told her everything. Not dramatically, not with insults, just the truth. The financial requests, the emotional manipulation, the silent treatment, the sudden coldness when money appeared unavailable, the speed with which Olumide shifted attention after believing she had nothing more to offer. Chioma listened without interrupting, but her face became more serious with every detail. Finally, she asked, "Do you have proof?" Kehinde nodded. She slid copies of bank transfers across the table, screenshots of messages, voice notes where Olumide spoke carelessly about needing a woman who can open doors. Chioma's eyes narrowed as she read. Still, pride kept her cautious. "He's been kind to me." "I'm sure he has," Kehinde said. "He is always kind when he thinks kindness will profit him." Chioma looked up sharply. "That's a serious accusation." Kehinde nodded. "So test him." "How?" "Refuse him." "Refuse what?" "The next big request." Chioma gave a dry laugh. "You think he'll ask me for money?" Kehinde looked at her steadily. "Not immediately. Men like him prefer strategy. It may come wrapped as an investment, an emergency, a business bridge, a family pressure, or a crisis that only a true partner would solve." Chioma said nothing. Kehinde stood up. "I've done my part." Before leaving, she turned back and added, "One more thing." Chioma waited. "I am not poor." Chioma frowned. Kehinde met her eyes. "I never was." Then she walked away. That single sentence haunted Chioma for days. "I am not poor." At first she assumed it was wounded pride speaking. But after the documents, the voice notes, and the unusual influence surrounding the meeting, doubt began to grow. She asked one of her father's trusted aides to discreetly look into Kehinde's background. The results shocked her. Kehinde was not just comfortable. She was connected to one of the most quietly powerful business families in the country. Even more surprising, she held controlling interest through trust structures in a holding company that had recently acquired a major stake in the very corporate group where Olumide worked. Chioma read the file twice, then a third time. A chill ran through her. Olumide had abandoned a woman of immense value because he believed she had none. And now he was trying to attach himself to her, but not knowing that the woman he mocked could still shape his entire future. Chioma closed the file and leaned back slowly. For the first time, she was not thinking about marriage. She was thinking about character. And for the first time, Olumide's polished image no longer looked impressive. It looked dangerous. 3 days later, Olumide invited Chioma to dinner at an upscale rooftop restaurant. The city lights glittered behind them as they sat across from one another. He was charming, as always, smooth, confident, careful. He spoke about legacy, about building together, about partnership. Then, after dessert, his tone softened. "Chioma," he said, "there is something I've been meaning to discuss." She kept her face neutral. "Go ahead. It's a time-sensitive opportunity. A land entry deal connected to an infrastructure expansion zone. I have access through a private contact, but I need quick liquidity." Chioma almost smiled. There it is, she thought. "How much?" she asked. He named an amount large enough to make ordinary people panic, but small enough to sound manageable to someone of her status. "And what exactly do you need from me?" "Just support. Temporary support. You know I would never ask if it wasn't strategic." Chioma took a sip of water. "I'm not comfortable getting involved." Olumide blinked. Not comfortable. Yes. With me? With the proposal. He adjusted his posture. Maybe I explained it badly. No, you explained it clearly. He gave a short laugh. Then perhaps you don't trust me. Chioma looked at him for a moment. I'm simply saying no. The change in his face was small, but real. Very real. The easy warmth disappeared. His jaw tightened. His voice lost softness. That's interesting. Chioma almost heard Kehinde's memory speaking through him. Olumide, she said calmly. Is there a problem? He leaned back, forcing a smile that did not reach his eyes. No problem. I'm just surprised. I thought we were serious. We are discussing that. A serious woman supports her man, and a serious man respects a boundary. There was a long silence. Then Olumide said, Sometimes wealthy people don't understand hunger. Chioma stared at him. Excuse me? I mean ambition, he corrected quickly. You may not understand what it feels like to be one step away from transformation. Chioma placed her cutlery down. I understand enough. The dinner ended awkwardly. As soon as she got into her car, she exhaled. Kehinde was right. Chioma did not end things immediately. Instead, she became observant. She gave Olumide room to speak freely. She watched his reactions. She studied how often he linked affection to opportunity. She noticed how quickly disappointment became irritation whenever she refused to accelerate his plans. Then she learned something worse. Olumide had still not honestly resolved his marriage before moving publicly toward her family. That information alone could cause scandal. But the real problem was deeper than scandal. It was deception, Chioma informed her father. Her father informed his legal team. At the same time, a separate internal review was already taking shape inside Olumide's company, one influenced by recent governance changes. What Olumide did not know was that the acquisition file involving Okonkwo-linked capital had given Kehinde's family indirect authority over executive risk reviews and strategic staffing decisions. When Chief Okonkwo heard everything, he said only one sentence: "Let truth do the work." And truth began to move quietly through offices, emails, audit desks, and private conversations. Records were checked, disclosures were reviewed, conflict of interest reports were examined. Travel claims, expense patterns, and recommendation trails linked to Olumide's networking behavior started raising questions. He had spent so much time climbing that he forgot one thing. The higher a person climbs through deception, the harder the fall. A week later, Olumide arrived at work smiling. He had convinced himself that the uncomfortable dinner with Chioma was temporary. He assumed she only needed reassurance. He even planned to send flowers later that day. But before noon, he received an email from Human Resources requesting his presence at an executive compliance meeting. His chest tightened slightly. Still, he walked in with confidence. Inside the room sat 3 people: a compliance officer, a legal representative, and the acting regional director. No one smiled. Olumide Bakare, the legal representative, began. We are here to address issues relating to non-disclosure, conduct misrepresentation, and breaches of internal ethics expectations. Olumide blinked. I don't understand. You failed to disclose an active marital status while pursuing a relationship connected to strategic partner families. That is a personal matter. It became a corporate matter when your conduct intersected with influence, access, and financial positioning. Sweat gathered beneath his collar. There must be some mistake. The compliance officer slid documents across the table. Bank patterns, internal messages, event access logs, relationship disclosures, statements from parties involved. Olumide's heartbeat quickened. Then came the sentence that truly shook him. Additionally, following changes in beneficial control structures, the group has become more sensitive to reputational risk associated with exploitative personal conduct. He did not fully understand the corporate language, but he understood danger. "What are you saying?" The regional director answered plainly. "Your employment is being terminated." The room tilted. Terminated? Yes. For what? For conduct inconsistent with the standards expected at your level, combined with material misrepresentation and emerging evidence of opportunistic relationship abuse tied to influence access. This is ridiculous. No one reacted. Olumide stood up halfway, then sat down again. "You can't do this. It has already been done." He looked from one face to another, searching for sympathy, loopholes, mercy. There was none. His ID card was taken. His access was revoked. He walked out of the building with a paper envelope in his hand and humiliation in every step. By the time he reached the parking lot, the world he had been building in his mind had collapsed. Chioma was gone. His job was gone. His image was breaking. And still, he did not know the full truth. Not yet. That evening, Olumide went to Chioma's house unannounced. He was not allowed in. A security officer informed him politely that Miss Obi would not be seeing him again. Olumide demanded answers. He called repeatedly. No response. He sent long messages full of explanations, excuses, and anger disguised as confusion. Nothing. Finally, near midnight, one message arrived. It was from Chioma. Just one line. "The woman you called useless owns more of your future than you ever imagined." Olumide stared at the message for a long time. His mouth went dry. He called back immediately. No answer. He read it again and again. Then pieces began to connect in his mind. Kehinde's calmness, the strange confidence in her final meeting with him, the people who seemed to know her, the speed of his corporate downfall. His knees weakened. No, that could not be true. He drove recklessly through the city until he reached the quiet district where Kehinde's family residence stood. He had only been there once, years ago, and even then he had not gone past the outer gate because Kehinde told him it belonged to relatives. Now he stood outside the massive compound, staring through the bars at lights, guards, and the kind of wealth that could not be hidden from anyone willing to see clearly. The guard approached. "Can I help you?" "I'm here to see Kehinde." "Do you have an appointment?" "No. Please tell her Olumide is here." The guard made a call. Minutes passed, then he returned. "Madam says she will not see you." Olumide's face fell. "Please, tell her I need just 5 minutes." The guard remained expressionless. "Madam says there is nothing left to discuss." Olumide stepped back as the truth finally crashed over him in full. He had abandoned a woman of dignity, patience, loyalty, and hidden power because he thought she was poor. He laughed bitterly to himself. Then, without meaning to, he began to cry. In the weeks that followed, Olumide's life unraveled quickly. Without his salary, his debts became visible. Without Chioma, his social rise disappeared. Without access to polished spaces and powerful circles, people who once praised him stopped returning his calls. He tried to start new conversations with old friends, but gossip had already spread. Some knew he had been terminated. Some heard he lied in relationships for gain. Some only knew there was scandal. It did not matter. Doors were closing. Meanwhile, Kehinde moved differently. Not loudly, not vindictively, simply differently. She returned to work through one of the family's development arms. She sat in meetings she had once avoided. She began overseeing community investment projects, women-led business grants, and restructuring initiatives in sectors where quiet but effective leadership mattered. Pain had changed her, but not into a cruel person. It had changed her into a clearer one. One afternoon, while visiting a vocational grant program, she stepped out of her car and saw a familiar figure across the road. Olumide. He looked thinner, older. His clothes were still clean, but they no longer carried confidence. They carried effort. When he saw her, he froze. Then he crossed the road slowly. Kehinde. She stood still. I just want to talk. She looked at him calmly. Why? He swallowed. I made a terrible mistake. Yes, she said. I didn't know. She raised a hand gently. That is exactly the problem. You didn't know because you never loved me enough to know me. Olumide lowered his eyes. I was foolish. You were greedy. The truth of her words left him defenseless. I am sorry. Kehinde looked at him for a long moment. Then she said, Sorry is important when it comes before destruction, not after. His lips trembled. Is there no way to fix this? No. He stared at her. No chance? Kehinde's expression softened, but only slightly. There may be a chance for you to become a better man one day, but there is no chance for you to return to my life. That answer was both kind and final. She stepped into her car. Then, before closing the door, she said, One more thing, Olumide. He looked up quickly. Never mock a quiet woman because you cannot see her value. Some treasures do not announce themselves. Then she left. Olumide remained there on the roadside, watching her car disappear until there was nothing left but dust and regret. Months later, Chioma requested another meeting with Kehinde. This time, there was no tension between them. They met in Kehinde's office, overlooking a construction site that would soon become a skills center for young women. Chioma smiled as she entered. You look different, she said. Kehinde returned the smile. So do you. They sat. For a few moments, they watched workers moving below. Then Chioma said, I owe you gratitude. You owe yourself courage, Kehinde replied. You listened. Chioma nodded. Most people don't, especially when charm is involved. Kehinde laughed softly. That is true. Chioma grew thoughtful. You know, when you first came to see me, I almost dismissed you. I know. I thought pain might be speaking. It was, Kehinde said. But pain can still tell the truth. Chioma smiled slowly. That line should be written somewhere. Maybe, Kehinde said. Chioma leaned back. I learned something important from all of this. What? That a polished man is not always a principled man. Kehinde nodded. And that wealth is a terrible judge of love when used the wrong way. Kehinde looked out the window before answering. Yes, the wrong people see money as a ladder, not a responsibility. Their conversation continued with ease, and in time, a quiet friendship formed between them. Not because of shared scandal, but because both women had chosen truth over illusion. There are some losses a person recovers from, and there are some losses that become mirrors. For Olumide, losing Kehinde became that mirror. Months after the scandal, he found temporary work in a smaller firm, far outside the circles he once chased. The salary was modest. The respect had to be earned daily. No one cared about appearances. No one rewarded empty charm. At first, he resented it. Then, slowly, painfully, he began to understand something he had spent years avoiding. He was not a victim of bad luck. He was a victim of his own character. It was easier to blame poverty, easier to blame pressure, easier to blame missed opportunity. But the truth was simple. He had treated human relationships like business shortcuts. He had measured women by access. He had called greed ambition. He had mistaken manipulation for intelligence. And by the time the lesson reached him, the woman who could have built a genuine future with him was already far beyond his reach. One rainy evening, he sat alone in his room and looked at an old picture from the early days of his marriage. Kehinde was smiling in that picture. Not because of money, not because of influence, just because she believed. Olumide stared at that smile until tears filled his eyes again. Some people lose gold while chasing glitter and only realize the difference when both are gone. This story teaches us that true love should never be built on greed, status, or what one person thinks they can gain from another. A person who only stays when money is flowing is not loyal. A person who measures love by usefulness does not understand love at all. And sometimes, the people the world underestimates are carrying more value, grace, and power than anyone can imagine. So never insult a quiet beginning. Never mock a simple life. And never throw away a sincere heart while chasing what only looks shiny from a distance. Because when truth finally reveals itself, regret may come too late. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful African tales of love, betrayal, wisdom, and life lessons. And tell us in the comments, at what moment do you think Olumide lost everything? When he left Kehinde, or when he underestimated her?